Hi, this is Chris Smith with Local Joe's. At Local Joe's, we help local business. Hi, this is Chris Smith with Local Joe's.
This is City Pulse Newsmakers, a weekly look at the issues and the people behind them in Greater Lansing. Brought to you by City Pulse, Lansing's weekly alternative newspaper. And now, here's your host, City Pulse publisher, Burl Schwartz.
Good morning. Our topic today is the BRT. That stands for Bus Rapid Transit, and that's what Cata would like to create on Michigan Avenue and Grand River Avenues from downtown Lansing to Meridian Mall. It would replace the #1 bus. Our sole guest today is the Assistant Executive Director of the Capital Area Transportation Authority. She is Debbie Alexander, and she is also in charge of this project. Debbie, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's start, Debbie, with you giving an overview of BRT. What's the impetus for it? What's it going to cost? How long is it going to take?
Okay. So the project started way back in 2007 when we were looking at ways in which we might be able to improve the transportation components of the corridor and how the Cata service has an impact on the corridor. We were encouraged by MDOT at the time to look at it as a multimodal project, and we have been doing that ever since. So in other words, while we have an interest in improving public transportation in this corridor because we have growing demand, and at times there are not seats or any room for people to board the bus in this corridor, we began to look at what if we just simply added more buses, what would that do? Well, adding more buses actually has a negative impact on the auto travel. So as a member of the transportation community, it's behooving upon us to be able to look at this as a holistic transportation project and look at ways in which we can improve not only auto or travel by bus, but also the auto traffic, pedestrian access, and even by bike travel if we can. So we embarked upon that study and have kept that focus all along. So it's not just about travel time on the bus between the Capitol and the mall. It's actually about how can transportation infrastructure be enhanced to enable economic development, which the region's visionaries talk about all the time, becoming a world-class city, attracting the brain drain from Michigan State and keeping that young life here in the corridor. What can we do to do those things? And of course, infrastructure growth and expansion needs to occur as development occurs in order to handle that mobility. So that was the original idea and has been the impetus for the project really all along.
And how much will it cost?
So the project currently for construction is $133 million. Public transportation offers a special pot of funds called New Starts and Small Starts, and we are eligible for that funding with this project. So just shy of $100 million of that will be coming from the federal government, and then there are a state match to that and a couple of other sources of funding that come from state and federal sources as well to build it.
How long will it take to build?
Well, it depends on when we get started because we have such limited construction seasons here in Michigan. Our anticipation is that it would take a year, so two complete summer constructions.
And the operating cost once it is started, how much will that be, and how does that compare to the #1 bus?
So you mentioned that it's replacing the #1 bus, which is absolutely true. There's also two other services along the corridor that the BRT will replace. Route 4, better known as the Entertainment Express, which runs Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, and also a portion of the Williamston Express, which currently runs limited stop from Williamston down the exact same corridor. So when you take the credit for the operating hours that those are currently being funded, the net increased cost is $2.7 million.
Okay, that increased annual cost?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, we're going to look at some video and some slides of how this project will look when it's completed. As of now, and I know things are still in the
Very much so.
Working stage. We'll talk about that. But let's look now at some different intersections and explain to us. Our audience will be looking at this at home while we look at it on a monitor. Explain to us what's going on here. So first we have Foster Avenue as it is now, and then if we could see how it would look. Explain to us what we're seeing.
Yes, absolutely. The red lines are the dedicated BRT lanes, so buses would be in their own lanes and vehicular traffic will be in their own lanes. You can see at this intersection that there are enhancements to the crosswalks as well as a right turn lane, a through and left turn lane for auto traffic. The two dedicated BRT lanes, one in each direction. In the lower part of the video, or the slide, you see a station. That's a bus boarding at a station going westbound. And then on the left-hand side of that is the through traffic going westbound as well.
So to make sure I understand, if we look at the station at the bottom center, people will be walking across a lane of traffic. In this case, we can see some what looks like a pedestrian. That person will have come from the left side across a lane of traffic.
So this is a signalized intersection. Like any signalized intersection, there are pedestrian facilities and crosswalks. Those crosswalks will have their own cycles. So yes, people will be walking across the street as they do today at any signalized intersection. They'll go to the middle platform, which will all be completely accessible, ADA accessible, as well as accessible for all.
But it looks like we have two things here. We have a crosswalk at the light, and then going, in this case, west, if I have the right perspective on this, we have the station. Is there another synchronized light for people to cross the traffic to get to the station?
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying. There are stations on either side of the intersection. So this station is only going westbound. The station on the north side of the picture in the middle is going eastbound. So when you, let's say you are on the left side of the picture and you're crossing at the light, you would cross to the center where the station is. You would turn, in this case, west, go up the ramp into the station and wait for the bus to arrive.
Okay, some of this may be that I just don't see that well at this distance, so people at home may understand this better than we do. I think now we have a video of how traffic would work at this intersection.
So here you see the single lane of auto traffic and the bus approaching the station. This is going eastbound. And so what we're trying to demonstrate here is how the traffic turning maneuvers are going to change, because when you have dedicated lanes in the beginning, in the center, you lose that free-flowing left turn in between signalized intersections. So here we're showing that cars are able to turn left, right, and U-turns, which is a new maneuver that would be introduced in this corridor, as you just saw.
And now I understand the station better, so that the station platform, as it were, extends to the crosswalk. And it looked to me at first like people were crossing the lane of traffic to get to it. And now we have what, Northwind?
Yeah, so this is Northwind, thank you, and this is at the new Whole Foods store. So in this case, we have two lanes of auto traffic going in the east and west direction. You have your BRT lanes in the center with your stations then on either side of this intersection. Again, we're showing here it's important to look at the auto movements and how will people drive in relationship to the movements of the buses. So every traffic movement and every pedestrian movement has its own signals. The buses actually move with the auto. It advances with the autos like it does today. There's no independent signal for that.
Oh, right.
And then you have your left turns and U-turns.
Okay. Okay,
So
now we have, this is
this is
downtown East Lansing,
That's
Division
right.
Street.
So this is a different alignment. Once you hit Detroit Street, we transition the eastbound into a curb lane travel. That is because most of the property between Frandor and Bogue Street is owned by the university, and there are very few curb cuts for driveways or access points. So it allows us to run safely along the curb. It also provides for the preservation of the left turn maneuvers in downtown East Lansing. So the eastbound is along the curb line to the south, and the westbound is operating in the center. Same thing, it's all the stations are at signalized intersections, so pedestrians always cross in a controlled environment to access the stations and to leave the stations.
And then we have, this is still in
Stoddard.
East Lansing, a little farther east.
That's right, so between Bogue and Hagedorn, there's
This is
only...
how it looks now.
It
I
looks
believe.
now, and it's going to look almost identical. We've added some additional placemaking features, including some landscaping. We've added a signalization at this intersection so that we have pedestrian crosswalks. But the bus is actually operating in mixed traffic because there's only 77 feet of right-of-way and not enough for lane expansion. So there is one station between Bogue and Hagedorn at Stoddard, and it's operating in mixed traffic, and we'll be stopping at this one station.
Okay, now those are 4 examples. Are they all, do these 4 examples show us all the different configurations?
Yes, they do.
Okay, and so now let's talk now, because this proposal has stirred up a fair amount of controversy, and one of the biggest opponents is, and this is like the war of the titans here, when you have Cata on one side and the Lansing Regional Chamber of Commerce on the other side, but they came out pretty strongly against this plan as it is currently constituted. And I wanted to ask you about some of the points that the Chamber Board of Directors has made. They say this plan just is, quote, not feasible. And the reasons they don't think so is they say it lacks viable options. And if I understand what they mean by that, there is just this plan. There is not a plan B or a plan C, that they would like to see some alternative plans. Do you have a response to that?
Well, we have considered a lot of plans to get to this point. As I said, we've been doing this since 2007. There have been a number of plans that have been considered, a number of alignments that have been considered, 2 of which were taken all the way through traffic analysis, and one failed in the traffic, had too much of an impact on traffic, negative impact on traffic. This plan actually has a positive impact on traffic. It allows for smoother auto flow and actually gains travel time from beginning to end of the corridor.
Why is that?
Because when you remove the buses stop every 9 minutes all day long.
Right.
And when you remove those buses from the auto lanes, the traffic is actually allowed to traverse smoothly without any interference from the buses. We are not proposing changing any of the speed limits, so the buses and the cars are operating at the same speed. So we're not talking about faster from an accelerator perspective. We're just talking about smoother without interruption or without delay.
But in East Lansing, and perhaps other points, but at least in East Lansing, you have 3 lanes of traffic in each direction through downtown.
No, you don't. You have 3 lanes of traffic in one direction, only going the westbound direction. The other ones are left turn lanes and 2 lanes of through traffic. Those left turn lanes will remain.
You know, it's interesting to talk to someone who lives and breathes this stuff, because I'm absolutely sure you're right, and yet my mind is thinking there are 3 lanes each way. And is that part of the problem, that people don't really know what they have, and so they...
I think there is a great deal of confusion. different messages that are being shared with other people, with people that you know. And so getting the accurate information out is critically important to Cata. So there, in East Lansing, when you talk about 3 lanes of traffic, of course, you've probably experienced that there's also boarding and deboarding occurring in that 3rd lane from shipping and deliveries, which is, according to East Lansing, an illegal maneuver, but they haven't really taken the opportunity to enforce it. They've assured us that if this were to go through, of course, they would do complete enforcement. So there would be 2 through lanes of traffic in the downtown East Lansing area. In fact, East Lansing is one of the greatest beneficiaries with regard to traffic movement because of the removal of the buses from those lanes. You asked me about alternatives. So we are in the process of considering options again and bringing forward those options that were dismissed or considered during the alternatives analysis, and doing further review. We've learned a lot along those many years, and so we're taking what we've learned through the research and analysis and applying that to the various ideas that we have that have been as a result of the suggestions. For example, there are some who believe we should run along the side of the curb all the time, and there are safety concerns and other things that relate to that, as well as the fact that that's more expensive to operate than what we're, not just to operate, it is to operate, it's also to build. There are other challenges with it. So it's bringing that information forward, which we'll be doing next week.
And I think it's, a number of people have said Cata is listening. Cata has had many meetings with the public about this, and that we can see also, you know, this started as maybe a $50 million more project, and
it's never been 50 million. It started at 214 million.
50 million more, I meant. So, and it's more, even more than that. I didn't recall the $214 million.
So it started as a $214 million project with construction costs at $194 million.
Okay, that's
we were about 3% designed at that point. We moved during the environmental assessment to 10% design, and it went to $155 million, primarily because of the alignment being refined. Then from there we went from 10% engineering or design to 30% design, where we actually did our field survey to learn exactly where the curb lines are and exactly where the right-of-way were, where the utilities were. And those are key factors for us to do further analysis on the cost-related issues, which has brought the project down now to $133 million. So
okay, so getting back to the Chamber's criticism that there's a lack of viable options, there have been other options you've looked at, and now you're revisiting options. So,
and we're taking into account what people are suggesting and looking at those options as well.
Okay. They say there's no clear forecast of the economic impact of the BRT. Is that a fair criticism?
So there is no BRT in Michigan that is at this level. So there's generally three levels of BRT: light, medium, and heavy. We would classify, nationally it's classified as heavy BRT, which we are bringing. You would classify the one in Grand Rapids as light BRT. It only operates during the peak hours, and it operates in shared lanes with right turns. So it's different and has a different purpose. So if you look at the research that's been done nationally by the National Institute for Bus Rapid Transit, you will see that there is a return on investment. And if you look at, say, Eugene, Oregon, a city which is near our size, they got $4 on every dollar expended. Their project was $100 million and received over $4 million of economic benefit. If you look at someone like Cleveland, they received $115 back for every dollar they spent, or over $6 billion of investment. BRT is a way to stimulate economic development.
And what, for example, would it stimulate?
Well, you create density. Businesses want to be where there's people, because that's the way in which they succeed. Employers want to be where there's easy access and good access to both transit and autos, and so that stimulates economic development around a dense area, which stations develop. If you use public transportation today, the population using it is spread out in increments along the corridor. If you bring those together into a density, you get higher volumes at a single location, which becomes very attractive for business owners. And for, say, whatever it's retail or restaurants or businesses, any of those classifications. It also becomes very popular for people who want to live in the urban area. Now I can live, work, and play all in the same corridor and either use my car or opt to use public transportation because it's readily and easily convenient to us.
All right, and then the Chamber, of course, cites frequently heard criticism, which is the loss of the left turn. Now we saw an example of what you referred to as a U-turn. Is that what will replace the ability now to make a left turn? So at intersections only, you'll be able to make that U-turn.
That's right. Similar to what you experience in East Lansing today. We've been having that since the early 1990s, where you approach a left turn lane and you can make a U-turn or a through left turn. That'll be the same way it's operated. So we've already experienced that in this region and in this corridor for a number of years. It would be extending that. I know
so we've experienced it. That doesn't necessarily mean people like it.
Well, the question is it having an impact? Is it having an impact on the businesses, which is what some businesses believe, that it will be a detriment to them, that they'll lose, that they will actually lose business? I would say that East Lansing's been continuing to be prosperous, and the businesses that are there haven't lost.
And I guess the question would be, what would they lose business to? Because if it's to another business, that other business will be in the same situation, maybe in reverse. They'll be on the other side of, the street.
So research done by a variety of different state organizations and even the federal government demonstrate that medians add a very high level of safety improvements. One of the more dangerous maneuvers in your vehicle is a left turn lane, especially when you're crossing free-flowing traffic without controlled intersections. And so the introduction of medians also brings about a 40 to 50% reduction in accidents and much more safe for pedestrians to cross as well. So there are a number of safety benefits that we're bringing, as well as a safe place, as we see in East Lansing all the time. Students stand on the median and wait for a clear passageway to go across the rest of the intersection. So it also provides, even if for an illegal mid-block crossing, a very safe way for them to do that.
All right. The Chamber also is concerned about the future of funding for this project. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we're in a very fortunate time. If you will remember, a year ago, the state transportation bill was passed for roads and public transportation, which provided for continuous growth in the Transportation Trust Fund. Cata receives operating assistance from that Transportation Trust Fund. So we've evaluated the growth, the projected growth that's been provided to us by the financial individuals at the state. And we see that there's going to be a growing contribution by the state. In addition to that, as we all know, economic development and growth brings additional property value increases. And that's a good thing. Given that public transportation is funded out of property taxes, that allows for growth in that as well. So as we bring more people and more businesses, that means there's more economic benefit to Cata, and it also increases the contribution to the trust fund through gasoline fuel taxes and auto-related sales taxes. So looking at all of that together, we're looking at a net difference of $2.7 million on a $45 million budget. Our financial analysis indicates that there won't be a challenge, and we are not projecting that we'll need to raise any local property taxes to fund this in the future.
One of the impacts I see, particularly interested in, is the loss of on-street parking, which is an issue maybe almost entirely, if not entirely, in the city of Lansing along Michigan Avenue. But what can you tell us about how this is going to affect people's daily routines?
Specifically about parking?
Yes,
so-
on-street parking.
So on-street parking is currently not proposed to be dramatically reduced along Michigan Avenue. There may be some reduction at the intersections where we need to modify the curb in order to allow for free flowing or for the U-turns, but mid-block it's not currently proposed to remove any of that parking. In the downtown Capitol Loop, there are a couple of streets, Linaway and Ionia, which will have a reduction in parking.
So are you going to be able then to accommodate, if I understand this correctly, you have, what, just one lane of traffic each way then where there is parking?
In downtown Lansing,
In
from
downtown.
Detroit Street all the way to Grand Avenue or almost to the Capitol.
Okay. Okay. The bike lanes, this will affect bike lanes in some areas, correct?
So there are bike lanes between Clippert and where Michigan and Grand River come together. Actually, from Harrison to Michigan and Grand River, they're only on the north side. So Cata will provide for a replacement of the bike facility within the corridor. We did a bike survey, got over 500 responses, which we were very pleased with, about a variety of different approaches to how we might do those bike lanes. We have yet to select one. We're not at a point where we need to make a selection on that. When we are, we've certainly promised the bike community that they'll be involved with helping to make the decision about how that's done.
Finally, in the time we have left, I want to address a very sensitive issue, which is how this will affect handicapped people.
People who are handicapped.
People who are handicapped. And they are concerned that they will no longer be able to take the bus right into Meridian Mall or right to practically to the door of a Myers store and some other, Frandor, they're concerned that they won't be able to go right into Frandor anymore. How are you dealing with that?
So we definitely appreciate their support. In fact, it helps us with our negotiations with Meyer and the mall. So we have been negotiating with them for over 4 years, trying to find a closer stop. They are retail locations. They have actually put a value on a parking space, and it means so much retail and so many sales per parking space. And so I think it will take a combination of Cata plus the public to help Meyer to reconsider the locations that they've had. But it is private property.
What about Frandor?
So Frandor, same thing. The entire area is private property. And so it will take some negotiations. We are looking at some viable options in that area, which we plan to explore.
All right, very good. Well, I have many more questions, but no more time. And it's been a delight having you. And I just want to say, Debbie, and to tell my audience, I've worked with Debbie for many years.
Long time.
And we're going to miss her as a public servant. You've really done a great job. You're retiring from Cata and leaving the state.
Yes.
So thank you for all you've done for Mid-Michigan.
Thank you very much, Pearl.
All right, and we are out of time, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you next week.